this over to the communication committee members that are here to tell us what was discussed.
Perfect. So we went through, there's a lot of little things that we went through in this. Dave, do you have that up? Or if you, I could either share it.
Yeah, which do you want to see first, Bob?
The one that you sent out today.
Okay, yep, let me get that up. My computer's just being a touch laggy, so I'm downloading it. That one seems to be up all right, so give me a second here. By the way, I am recording, so you know.
Oh, thank you.
I got mid-ends introductory statement. And click the go. And there it is.
Perfect. So there's a couple things that have changed here from what we saw last. The center circle. So there's no small circle I see in this, which must mean we don't need the small circle. That had been discussed some, and I wasn't sure. Todd didn't know, so we met on Monday, and Todd didn't actually know the answer whether we needed that small circle inside the big circle in the center of the court. I see it's not there, and so I'm assuming we don't need it. Is that, would you say that's an accurate assumption, Dr. Glover?
Yeah, I would say so. Because I think he left it with us that he would check, and then if they had to stay, he would leave them in the drawings, if I remember the conversation correctly.
So if we can later, I don't want to switch back and forth because they are a little bit slow to load, but we could look at another earlier version of this that has, I think we'd all agreed that if we had to have that smaller circle, we would want it outlined with just wood colored, right? So it wouldn't go black to purple, it'd go black to wood to purple, as far as that black circle in the very center. Also bring your attention to the foul lines. There's only a semicircle there now. There's no circle that goes into the lane. Those circles are no longer used, so we don't need that. Todd also wasn't sure, but he looked into it, and I don't see it here, so I'm assuming that we're okay not having a circle go into the lane. Lots of college courts now do not have that full circle that often is hashed inside the paint of the lane, so that is removed. The couple other things. So we looked at some other pictures, other college courts, high school courts, and decided on the thickness of these lines. So the side lines are a little bit narrower than they'd been before in an earlier rendering. That was because they were at 4 feet, and then that would leave, they would go most of the way towards the players' feet when they're sitting on the bench, but then it'd go back to wood. And so we thought that it would look better. This is sort of a ratio that's pretty common in college courts now, is about, I think that's 4 feet on the baseline and 2 feet on the sidelines. Also, there's no white line inside that outside purple, right? So we have the sidelines and the baselines that are purple. Earlier versions had a white court inside of that, and we did away with that. So Todd had looked into that and concluded that we didn't actually need that, and so we thought that was was more appealing. And then the cross court, we looked, a couple different versions have been looked at, but these are so the volleyball courts are yellow, the basketball side-to-side courts are gray, and I thought it was thought that gray is light enough that it wouldn't ever be confused with the center black line for an over and back call. And then one other piece. So some of them were just other details that we hadn't thought of. Good point. When we did away with the white around the whole outside, we had to put in, you can see along the baseline, between the thick baseline and the lane, there's just, it goes to wood just for a thin strip there to delineate where the baseline is. And so that, before that had been a white line that went all the way around the court, and when we removed that, then it would not have been clear where the baseline was in the lane. And then the other thing that, so lots of colleges have gone to having their league in the lane. So if you imagine where the free throw shooter is standing, and when he looks down at his or her feet, it says SWA there. We had talked about putting ADK there with the Adirondack League. I think it was Amy who had suggested we not put something there that might change. And so we could put SWA in there. Not sure how, it does have a line going through it. So from the volleyball court. So not, not married to that at all, but that was something that we had gone with. Anything else, Dan, that you remember from our conversation the other day?
I think the only other thing was just where it says Salem on the baselines there, that we narrowed it in. We brought it in closer. It had been much more spread out to go across the whole baseline, and this, I think, actually looks a lot better.
Right, it was going to go all the way to the wall, right? It had to go all the way to the wall, and we thought this looked better. So,
oh, I was talking about the lettering, that too, but the width and also the lettering.
Got it. Correct. Right. So both those things. Yep.
Yep.
Thoughts from board members? I think it's going to look a lot better than this because it's not our purple. You can't really perceive a gold in where it says Salem, and the court obviously is going to be nice, beautiful wood finish and not this sort of flat tannish color. So, so when we did, I had done a quick rendering of it just with a cutting and pasting from a floor, an actual wooden floor.
All right,
My thought,
go ahead.
the SWA, I don't care for that in the lane right there, but other than that, I like everything about it.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I'm about six. I liked it when I saw it in the college courts. It is a little distracting, I think to have the line through it.
Yeah.
The line through it kind of changes it. So, yeah, certainly not. I personally, I'm not. I do get emotionally married to things. I'm not emotionally married to that. So.
No, I was just going to say, I shared the renderings, not this one, but the other two with Peter, and he did say that centered circle, the inside circle was not necessary as long as the players were inside that larger one. So it may be that the other parts, the rules have changed, so.
Right. Well, I think that's similar for like those, right? We used to have jump balls.
Mhm.
Way back. I mean, not when I played, but before that, there were jump balls at either end of the court by the free throw lines, and there no longer are. So I think that's why that part of the circle wasn't required either.
No, I think it looks sharp.
I think it looks good. I would agree with the letters. I'm having a hard time with the SWA letters, but I mean, once you put the yellow line through it, I feel like it looks a little off. But other than that, I think everything looks really good. I think you guys did a great job.
Perfect. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know what Dan's perspective is, but I think I sort of, with the line through the SWA, and I kind of like having the league there, but I think similarly a D would look no better and maybe worse than a W. ADK is what we'd had on there at one point, but I think that would look probably worse with a line through it. So
I agree. The line through it kind of ruins it. But you need the line there for obvious reasons.
perfect. Well, I mean, it sounds like that's a go. It will be school colors, right? So it won't be this purple. That was not shockingly important to me that it was the right purple. And I'm not sure the one that actually Dave has up. I've got it pulled up on for some reason my screen is making the sidelines look different purple than the baselines, but I can see that the one that Dave has pulled up, they're the same, and they'll be our purple. So.
Did you have an opportunity to discuss the two other, the beige colors or gray tones in the gym?
We did. So if Dave could pull up the gray. So the gray is what we went with as a recommendation. You know, I think that it's a little hard to tell from that picture of it. We did have some discussion about, and I think probably hadn't given a lot of thought previously to what those walls would look like with the stuff that adorns them up until recently, right? Banners were recently taken down. Some assumption, I think, that some of those banners at least will go back up. And so I think that changes it. One piece that would be different from current is that there is the gray on so you have the pads, and then next to the pads is a light gray. And that same light gray would be up basically from the trusses up. And so we had some discussion about whether any of the gray was going to take away from the brightness of the room. The lights already have made a big difference. The floor is going to be a lot lighter. And that it's actually a white, I forget the name of it. I think if I squinted hard enough, I'd be able to read it, but it's a
Snowbound.
Snowbound, right? So Snowbound. So my assumption is that Snowbound is fairly white. I think it's 93% luminescent, or whatever the term is, the metric that they use to measure lightness of colors. So that was our preference over the beige. And again, we weren't limited to those two. That's just sort of that was what the interior decorator had presented, and we preferred this one. I mean, there's endless whites and light grays that could be chosen, but I think the idea of having a little bit darker down near where at human level would be a little cleaner than having it be white down there. And then that kind of cream white up above just would provide a lot of light for the gym. And the idea of the darker up above was that it would darken it a little bit up there and draw attention away from that's not where, not that I don't know that people spend a lot of time looking up in the rafters, but.
I prefer gray over beige of the color schemes, so.
Yep, no, we did too.
Looks good.
Perfect. And then sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Oh, I was just going to say, does this now, we can move forward and have things in place to have all of this work done on schedule?
I think that's a question for
Yes,
Dave.
we
Yep.
should. It's, I will forward the information to Todd and to Schoolhouse, and then they can take it from there to get it to the people who need to, so they can do their planning. So just for, one last check, measure twice here. The rendering of the gym floor is good, except we're deleting the SWA at the foul line.
Correct.
And we're going with a gray color scheme for the walls.
Correct.
Got it.
And then the end of the bleachers. Did you decide?
We did, yeah. So we recommended not going with the covering. It was, so one thing that concerned me about it was that it was, Todd said, pretty likely to keep kids out, but what not, I said, was it guaranteed? I mean, my worry would be somebody shutting the bleachers, and now they can't look in underneath the bleachers because there's a tarp basically. And it's vinyl, and it kind of looked like a tarp. It wasn't like it was taut. And so actually David suggested maybe at some point that was something we could do afterwards anyway. And a net, and actually, I think a net would be a good idea at some point. Potentially it'd be a deterrent for people going in there, but then also if some second grader slipped around behind there, like mine might want to, you'd be likely to see through a net, whereas the vinyl you couldn't see at all. So we opted out of an end covering for the bleachers.
Sounds good.
Right. Thank you for doing all that work. I'm excited to see it all come together. So I did ask Dr. Glover to add one more thing to the agenda, the ad hoc committees. I just wanted to do some preparation work for our next regular meeting. Heidi, I know that you were interested in putting together a construction committee to take a look at the actual pieces of the construction. Is that something that you would be willing to take a look at and start to gather up some ideas and some people who might be interested in that committee, we can talk about it at our next regular meeting. If you have some of the information, that would be
Yep.
appreciated. Dr. Glover, I know that you had wanted to talk about a committee to look at wrapping up, but the timeline is so short. I was just going to ask you if you would please bring a list of projects that we had talked about at the start of the building project and did not get them included. If there are things that are still relevant on those lists, if there's a dollar amount, we can start working to see if any of those items could be incorporated at the end. I know we really only have to our next meeting to get this done. So to make sure that we stay on the timeline that you had told us. And Jackie, I was wondering if we could maybe talk about summer school just to flesh out some things that might be necessary and, you know, in preparation of that conversation. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that was all that I had. And we do have quite a few people here. I'd like to open it up to public comment. If there's anybody, I'm not really sure how to do this. Dan, are you in charge of, can you do that? If there's anybody who wanted to say something?
I'm not in charge, but I think if
Oh.
anybody wants to say anything, just unmute themselves and
Okay.
start talking.
No, I don't see anybody doing that, so. Anybody? No? All right, then, Dr. Glover, our business is conducted. We have the 2 items. Is there anything else?
Nothing this afternoon.
All right, a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks very much, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You too. Thanks, everyone.